The world thought they knew the story of Princess Diana's tragic death, but now hidden truths are surfacing, truths that challenge everything. Her brother, Charles Spencer, has broken his silence, revealing details that have remained buried for decades. What really happened behind closed doors when the royal family first learned of her death? And why was the funeral procession an unbearable nightmare for her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry? Stay with us as we uncover the heartbreaking reality. September 6, 1997. The world stood still. Millions gathered in London, while over 2.5 billion watched on their screens. But among the sea of mourning faces, one image became etched in history. Two young boys, William and Harry, walking behind their mother's coffin. The sight was devastating. William was just 15, Harry only 12. The weight of grief, duty, and expectation pressed down on them with every step. The pain was evident, yet what most people didn't know was that this wasn't their choice. Charles Spencer, Diana's younger brother, had fought against it with everything he had. When the burial committee informed him that the boys would walk in the procession, his reaction was immediate. Never. To him, the thought of two grieving children being paraded before the world was unthinkable. He argued, pushed, demanded, but the palace's response was ice cold. It has been decided. Then came the lie that changed everything. Spencer was told that William and Harry had agreed to it, that they wanted to do it. With a heavy heart, he relented. But years later, Prince Harry would reveal the truth. They had never been given a choice. They were simply told what to do. And by the time Spencer realized he had been deceived, it was too late. The day of the funeral was suffocating with sorrow. Streets overflowed with grieving faces, tears streaming, flowers piled high. Then they appeared. Charles Spencer walked alongside Prince Charles, Prince Philip, and the two boys. Cameras zoomed in. The world saw bravery, dignity, but Spencer saw something else. Two children burdened with a duty they should never have been given. The walk from Kensington Palace to Westminster Abbey was long, relentless. The sound of sobbing filled the air. But the boys never faltered. They didn't break. They didn't cry. Harry would later describe it as feeling utterly numb, as if his emotions had shut down. It was a performance of strength, but at what cost? And then Spencer took the podium. What followed was one of the most powerful eulogies ever delivered at a royal funeral. He didn't just speak about Diana. He spoke for her. He called her the most hunted woman of modern times, condemned the media, and indirectly challenged the monarchy itself. The royal family sat expressionless. The Queen remained unmoved. Prince Charles didn't flinch, but the world heard him loud and clear. Then Spencer made a promise that shook the establishment. He vowed that Diana's blood family, not the Windsors, would guide and protect William and Harry. It was a direct challenge to royal authority, a declaration that her sons would not be left entirely in the hands of the monarchy. The response? Applause. Something almost unheard of at a royal funeral. The crowd of dignitaries, celebrities, and political figures broke into spontaneous clapping. It was a moment of defiance, a moment of truth. But Spencer would later admit that the promise he made was impossible to keep. The monarchy's grip on William and Harry was too strong. There was no escaping it. And despite his words, the system swallowed them whole. The funeral was over, but the battle for Diana's legacy had just begun. Years later, Harry would reflect on that day. He would say that forcing children to walk behind their mother's coffin was something that would never happen in today's world. And yet, no one had fought hard enough to stop it back then. For Charles Spencer, the funeral procession remained one of the most painful moments of his life, a moment that should have never happened. But the funeral was only the public goodbye. Behind closed doors, a storm was brewing. The royal family's initial reaction, or rather, their lack of one, would leave the world in shock. What really happened when the news of Diana's death reached the palace? Why did the monarchy remain silent as the world wept? The truth is far more chilling than anyone could have imagined. Let's rewind to the early hours of August 31st, 1997. In a tunnel in Paris, a black Mercedes carrying Diana crashed while trying to outrun paparazzi. The impact was catastrophic. The car crumpled like paper. Diana was alive, but barely. The whispers began. Then, the headlines. The world didn't know it yet, but within hours, the most famous woman on the planet would be gone. Miles away in South Africa, Charles Spencer was asleep when the phone rang. The voice on the other end was calm but firm. Diana had been in a serious accident. She was severely injured. The royal family did nothing. No public statement, no address to the nation, no visible mourning. The people wept in the streets, while the monarchy remained hidden in Balmoral Castle, far from London. As the hours turned to days, the silence became deafening. From the moment Diana stepped into the royal family, Charles Spencer never held back his anger. He watched as his sister, once a vibrant 19-year-old, was pulled into a world that never truly accepted her. To the monarchy, she was a figure to be displayed but never fully embraced. Even after her marriage to Prince Charles crumbled, she was left to navigate relentless media scrutiny alone. And when she tragically lost her life, Spencer's fury didn't fade. It ignited a firestorm that would haunt the royal family for decades. His message was always clear. Diana had been failed. Again and again, he exposed the coldness of the institution, their refusal to protect her, and the painful truth that they distanced themselves even as the press hunted her. Spencer openly criticized the fact that, despite being the mother of a future king, Diana was left vulnerable. No security, no shield, no real support. The result? A woman constantly running. Until, on that devastating night in 1997, she couldn't run anymore. And when Spencer spoke at her funeral, he didn't hold back. Standing before a grieving nation, he delivered words that sent shockwaves through the monarchy. He made it clear. Diana's magic had never come from the royal title. It had always been her own. In that moment, he flipped the script. The monarchy didn't define Diana. Diana defined them. But his most haunting promise? That her sons would be protected, that they wouldn't suffer the same fate. And yet, years later, Harry's own words proved otherwise. The royal family's reaction was ice cold. Inside Westminster Abbey, the Queen remained stone-faced, the royals silent. But outside, the streets of London erupted. For the first time, someone had publicly called out the monarchy, not in whispers, but in front of the entire world. Spencer wasn't just mourning his sister. He was exposing a system that had let her die, and his anger didn't wane. In later interviews, he described the palace's treatment of Diana as inhumane. He revealed the late-night phone calls, Diana in tears, feeling trapped, unheard, and completely alone. Yet, nothing changed. Decades later, those same patterns resurfaced, this time with her son. Harry watched history repeating itself, and he refused to stand by. The moment he saw Meghan subjected to the same relentless scrutiny, the same cold indifference, he made a choice that shook the royal institution to its core. He left. He walked away, not out of rebellion, but survival. And just like Diana, he was vilified for it. Harry had spent his entire life watching the system break his mother. He never forgot the flashing cameras, the aggressive headlines, the way she was isolated and pushed aside. And most of all, he never forgot the night she died. The world was stunned. No royal had ever done this. But for Harry, it wasn't about defiance. It was about breaking free from a system that had nearly destroyed his mother. He wasn't just leaving. He was rewriting history. And Charles Spencer? Though he never made loud public statements, his silence spoke volumes. The man who had spent years fighting for Diana's legacy understood exactly why Harry walked away. After all, he had been fighting the same battle for decades. But the question remains, did Spencer do enough? Could he have fought harder to protect Diana? Could he have prevented Harry and William from being shaped by the same institution that cost their mother everything? One thing is certain. Diana's story didn't end with her death. It lives on through her sons and through the choices they make. What do you think? Was Spencer right to call out the royal family? Or should he have done more? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive gripping, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's another shocking story waiting for you.